Hello and welcome to Wrestling and Everything, Coast to Coast, with your hosts, Buddy Sotello, Esquire, and Evan Ginzburg. Evan, would you like to introduce our guest for tonight?
Absolutely. We are honored to have a true Renaissance man, Christopher Annino, director of Circle of Champions, History of Women's Wrestling. It's a documentary that we're anxiously awaiting, and he's also done the Lollipop Gang, a mob comedy that I'm involved with, and a ton of legendary wrestlers, and we'll be talking about that during the show. He's also a contributing writer at Slam Wrestling. He's wrestled himself. He has a resume that would take an hour, so I'll leave it at that, and we'll talk about all of his various secret identities and such. But we're honored to have Chris Annino. How are you tonight, Chris?
Good, guys. I'm looking forward to talking to you guys. Always good to be on the show. Thank you so much.
Well, tell us about your shirt first of all. What's the shirt you have on?
Oh, it's a Connecticut t-shirt. It says Connecticut on it. I'm the co-founder of the New England Music Hall of Fame. Actually, tonight I was working on some awards. I was mounting some awards that I had created.
That's beautiful.
It's for journalism. We want to honor journalists in New England because without journalism, you really, like, say you have a concert, it doesn't exist if you don't have an article or TV episode. That's very important press, which people forget about. And like people like the Baseball Hall of Fame, it's their press writers that they honor, which is great, and broadcasters. So big fan of press and good press too. So.
And by absolute sheer coincidence, my dear friend Daniel Everett has been with me all day today. He's from Connecticut, and he's an old school wrestling fan. So maybe towards the very end of the show, we'll have him come on and reminisce about the days of Bobo Brazil and Killer Kowalski and all the guys. But Chris, tell us about the two documentaries first off. Amazing projects.
Oh, I appreciate it, Evan. It's very kind of you. Well, I'll start with the Circle of Champions one. So Circle of Champions is a documentary, and we've made the Lollipop Gang into a mockumentary. So rather than doing actual feature-length fictional films, I've decided to go more documentary or mockumentary genre, and my style has changed completely. Where I would worry about a shot, I don't worry about the shot, but more of the content of the shot. Like you were just mentioning Blair Witch Project. Well, that was like a docudrama. I mean, it wasn't really real, but it was great and suspenseful. I thought that was a pretty well shot film back in the day because when we were kids, well, for kids, we all believed it was real because, like, oh my God, they really got lost in the woods there. What the hell happened?
Well, they also had all that additional information. They were the first film to really use the internet as like another way to continue the story that they couldn't tell in the film, where they didn't have enough way to give all that background to it.
And Spinal Tap, like for instance, just getting into Lollipop Gang, Spinal Tap was a huge inspiration for that because when I was a kid, I thought Spinal Tap was a real band.
Yeah,
and they kind of are. They kind of are.
They are, but they're not. They purposely were trying to mock the band. They actually had good music.
Yes, they were just great musicians in their own right, and then they sort of took onto itself, kind of like the Ruddles. If you ever saw the Ruddle,
that's a good. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite films. In fact, if you said what is the greatest comedy of all time, that to me qualifies. You can at least put it in the conversation of greatest comedies of all time.
That's a really good one because it was fearless. They did something new.
And it was so close to what they were parodying. Their music was good in its own right, even though it wasn't the Beatles. Eric Idle was able to capture that Beatles sound, especially as it transitioned through, the early "I Love You, Yeah, Yeah" phase to the psychedelic stuff and all the other spots in between. I've always been a huge fan. Ruddles.
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
it's hard, and it's a thing you got to keep in mind. It is so hard to create a comedy, uh, feature length. That's hard to do. Like one of my top five would probably be God. Well, any Mel Brooks film from like God. I mean, you could do Silent Movie is a great example. That's a great film.
And
That
you yourself have done a full length silent movie,
yeah
this century. So
yeah that was a
you could
hard.
tell us about that also. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Silent Movie that Mel Brooks did. That inspired my because I love Mel Brooks. He's my favorite director of all comedy director of all time. Um, and so I thought, he didn't really do an actual silent film because one person said something in it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So I figured, well, maybe I could be the first in 85 years to do a full length feature silent film the same way it was done with the sped up film speed and everything like that. Because back in the day, people weren't moving faster. They had an engine in the camera that made it go so fast that the film would go quicker. It wasn't going film speed, which is 24 frames per second. Um, Standard. Now it's different. But I figured, well, might as well. And I always liked vaudeville, and I always liked. I didn't like burlesque, but I liked vaudeville because the vaudeville was the foundation of what made the best entertainers ever. That's where they cut their teeth, like Jerry Lewis, um,
Milton Berle.
Dean Martin, yeah, Milton Berle, Sammy Davis Jr., Charlie Chaplin. That's the greatest of all time. The guys I got out now, that's what helped form us. That's what helped form our entertainment.
Oh
And so
yeah.
I wanted to just do more research on it. And by doing more research, I did a film that kind of documents what that was and what that meant and the evolution of it. And then it also showed an individual who gained a lot of power in a short amount of time and bought a vaudeville house. And it shows how money corrupts people. So, and it also shows the evolution of when burlesque, which is more of an edgy,
Sexier, yeah.
yeah, kind of corrupted that because it was an age of innocence, and then automatically it disappeared, and then so did the entertainment. I mean, it just was depending on sex appeal, which is whatever. If someone's into that, it's fine. But then all these vaudeville workers got out of work and they had no work. And so, but yeah, I enjoyed it because I fashioned the film after a vaudeville show. Every 5 minutes, every 3 to 5 minutes, I switched the scene to another sketch or whatever else by maintaining the story. That was the most important thing.
And what was the name of the film so people can look for it?
So it was Silent Times, giving homage to Modern Times, which was a Charlie Chaplin film, and obviously, silent film. Mel Brooks' silent film helped inspire that, but it wasn't Mel Brooks' style of comedy. It was more of a combination of what would Buster Keaton do and what would Chaplin do, and those guys are both famous for not lipping things and having a title in there like dialogue. In fact, they would compete who would have the less dialogue box. Everything was through physical.
Pantomime.
Yeah, but that was the hard part because there was few words that were said in this, and then like a title thing. So I think maybe like 4 or 5 slides for dialogue. So we proud ourselves. We were proud about that because I wanted everything to be a physical way of communicating through that. So that and everyone could watch it. Anyone who could, uh, someone who's deaf could enjoy it. Anyone could enjoy it. And that was the other reason.
And
But
there was some wrestlers in there. You always have a wrestling connection. Tell the viewers about that.
yeah, I'll always put wrestlers in my films. I like wrestlers. I like veterans. Like EMS workers. I like people associated with the wrestling community. I love. So I put Ron Bass is in it. It's his last film and footage alive. He passed away 5 days later.
Wow.
What a shame. And
I,
I do remember his passing.
yeah, I had given him my shirt because I needed him to play a football coach. So I gave him my shirt. It was a collared shirt. And I remember him telling me, you want it back? Nah, keep it. It's fine. No big deal. And then Brian Blair was in that scene, and we did a great football scene. We had Olga Kurkalina. She's not a wrestler, but she was an Olympian, and she played Mother Russia in Kick-Ass 2. She was in it. She played a mime, and she's about 6'4".
Yeah.
Oh, and she couldn't speak any English, but she was the easiest actor to deal with the whole time. I just basically
Really?
told her, yeah, I just said I would tell her stuff and she would understand everything. She would never ask a question. She'd get it in one take. The rest of them I had to like walk it out and let's rehearse. And Angel Orsini was in it. Jeannie Bassone was in it. Let me
They
think.
were just guests on our show.
Oh, good. Yeah, Jeannie's great. Angel's great.
They are really great to, I mean, they're wonderful when they're here on the show, and I can only imagine that they're the really professional to when they get behind the camera, get
Yeah,
in front of the camera.
honestly, and Jeannie's like Jeannie and okay, so we did a small little thing there with her. I wanted to see how she'd do. She was great. And then we I said to her, let's maybe try and do an actual feature length film. And this is famous. I couldn't believe we did this. I don't know, Evan, you weren't there for this one. So we had to shoot 46 scenes in one day.
Wow.
And Evan, you know how I can be on set sometimes.
Yeah.
Be a
When
little
did that day end?
oh, fuck. It was a day in April 2019. And I was like, because Angel directed some of the scenes, and I went off with Jeannie and the rest of them to direct the rest. And I didn't think we could do it, honestly. And we did. And we did it perfectly. Like, she was a professional the whole time on the set. She really impressed me with her acting ability, and she should get more of a push. Out of all the wrestlers I worked with, honestly, that one right there deserves a big push in the film world. If any other filmmakers out there, I highly recommend Jeannie Bassone. She's phenomenal. Um,
We do
Angel's a,
too.
yeah, Angel's a really good character actor. She's still learning. She's come a long way. But I was incredibly impressed with um, what Jeannie was able to do because she's the lead in the film now, and she had to take 42 scenes in one day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
And this is the Lollipop Gang, correct?
that's the Lollipop Gang,
Right,
right?
right, right.
We had to,
Mob comedy. Yeah.
we shot that in the German club in Mystic, Connecticut, right across from the Mystic Seaport. And it was just like, and I'm not trying to, well, what the hell, I'll just say it. Um, the lead, there was a male lead at one point, but I had to write him off. And this is part of the reason why, because 40 plus scenes in one day, I just told him, hey man, Joe, you really got to like be on your A game. Oh yeah, man, I'm living a dream now. I'm going to be the next Ralph, who played Ralph Cramden.
Jackie
Jack
Gleason.
Gleason.
So his guy was Jackie Gleason. He wanted to be like him. What I didn't realize is he also wanted to party like him as well. So that day, I'm like, Joe, you gotta get ready. These are like 25 scenes you got to do, right? And we shot his scenes, but at one point I was like, hey man, I'm just gonna replace your scenes, and I'm gonna give these scenes to Jeannie. Jeannie had to learn last minute lines, and then I had to just change it to, all right, well, Jeannie's gonna be the lead. And that was
Wow.
a split second decision. Then I told him, you can leave. And he's like, well, why, man? I'm like, because you're buzzed and I can't work with you. So unfortunately, Joe, that's it. So Joe was written out of it. I wish him the best. And if he is listening, I'm like, Joe, you could have been a really good actor. And he is a good actor. It's just when he's not focused, it's sad. So, and you know,
But the same thing happens in wrestling. Same thing
yeah,
happens in wrestling.
and people will see me as harsh in the films, and I'm not being harsh. It's just I want the best performance out of that person. It's not about me. It's about the film, and it's what I've always said to, me and Angel will bicker back and forth, but I've always said to her, and she's always agreed. Uh, it's the film first, okay? Whatever say you and I are on a film set, we have it out. It doesn't matter. An argument is irrelevant for the situation. The film comes before us because that's going to last the longest. We could
Jackie Chan actually was quoted as saying, "If I do a stunt and I break my ankle, what's the difference? We captured the scene, and it's there for posterity. It's there forever." Yeah.
And
it's a lot like that with wrestling. I mean, when you think about like people wanting to look at the show as a whole, the entire card, if somebody makes it so much about their, one performance, then how is that going to work for the entire card as a whole? So,
well, and that's the other thing too. It's like, if you make someone look bad on a match, it's the same thing. It's like Gary Oldman's one of the greatest actors of all time. He did a film called Sid and Nancy.
I saw it. Great.
Yeah. That could have been he did a great performance. It wasn't a great film, and there's two reasons why. The person opposite of him wasn't a strong actor and couldn't compete with him. Not compete, but couldn't work with him. He would give her such great. It's like in wrestling, the guy he'd give him something good to work with, and they basically just she didn't know how to like counter that or how to make that into anything. And so Gary Oldman had to do 5 times as much better than the other person.
To carry her, just like the way, like a wrestler has to carry somebody who's bad in the ring.
Yeah. Kevin Nash would say he was a bad hand. She was a bad hand. Not only that, but then the writing also sucked because how much can you talk about like some guy like going through withdrawals or in and out of whatever, add a third dimension to Sid. Yes, that's how he lived, but just add something else because the end. Well, I'm not going to give away the ending, but the ending is a really good ending. That's where it kind of turned a little bit, but it should have turned more maybe 20 minutes before, where there was a little bit of difference to that. And that could have been fixed with editing. It doesn't have to be necessarily script, but
well, you are hitting on a subject that is just right dead center with like my own life experience right now. So I have to interrupt you and bring it up, which is that what is it with movies going over 2 hours in length and seriously over 2 hours in length all the time? My daughter is 11 years old and we've been watching like old classics, in my opinion, things like The Princess Bride and Alien and Aliens, and those are all great films, but they're all an hour and a half to 2 hours long. You rarely saw a film that was over 2 hours long 20, 30 years ago.
And they should keep it that way because there's two issues we have with films.
Well, I was just about to bring up Batman. The most recent Batman movie.
My friend just watched it this morning.
I refuse to watch it.
It becomes an ordeal. It becomes an endurance contest. Now it's like, can you endure a movie with the length of Batman and make it all the way through? Versus like my daughter and I tried to watch The Eternals the other day, and we got about 40 minutes through it. We both looked at each other and said, "Do we understand what the plot is?" Both of us said no.
Yeah.
And then, most importantly, Evan, we asked each other, "Do we care?"
Right.
And after 40 minutes, if you can't find a way to either understand the plot or care about the characters, and I'm not just like some dope who can't understand a comic book based movie. I'm still trying to figure out the end of 2001. I still don't understand that. But You know, I give me some credit. I could understand Eternals if it had an understandable plot. We couldn't care about it, and then we noticed there was another 2 hours left to watch in that movie, and we were like, "That's it, we're out."
Siskel and Ebert said if you are able to turn off a movie or walk out on a movie, it just shows it's not a good movie. Because any good movie, you're going to want to know what happened to these characters. You can't just turn the channel if it's worthwhile. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, and I agree with you too. So, but like it's like this. I'll say this. There's some films that are meant to be that length. And one film that could only be that length that I watched, and it's the only one that I can think of. I thought Dances with Wolves was well shot, cinematically. Okay, I'm not getting into story or anything like that. Well, story, it was a good story. You had to have it be that long because you had to take somebody who was his mindset, that character's mindset had a different mindset on or different viewpoint on Native Americans. The character did, and you had to show how it evolved. Because if you watch it, it evolves to he's afraid of Native Americans, the character, and then he becomes friendly with them. And it's a long process for that in real life, to establish a relationship. That's what it was really about, establishing friendship, establishing relationship, realizing that he's no different than them and they're no different than him. And that was very powerful.
I wouldn't slash up Dances with Wolves. Please keep me I want to go for the record, on the record, say I'm not saying let's cut up Dances with Wolves, but recently a lot of movies, especially like Batman is one, weren't there scenes that you could just tell the director that's enough already? I think people are afraid to tell Quentin Tarantino, do you know what? You've made your point in this scene. Let's move on to the next scene. And every director wants to feel like every second that they've got is so important that you can't cut any of it out of it.
Here's the thing. There's more 3-hour ones and less shorts. Why we should have more short films. Why not? Have it before a movie, because Christ, you're already paying like
20-30 bucks a seat.
Right? So like at least have, as you're waiting, hey, here's a series of short films. Enjoy.
Well, because they gotta hit you with the ads.
Yeah, they could, but they could still hit you with the ads too. They can have a little thing underneath saying, hey, by the way, buy this thing or whatever else.
Totally right. You're totally right. You're totally right.
Get the Criterion Channel. They have great shorts and great films. But speaking of great films, before we get too late into the show, please, Chris, tell us about Circle of Champions, History of Women's Wrestling.
Please.
Well, it's been a long journey with that one, and a lot of pain, blood, sweat, and tears, and evolution came with that. So I've been shooting it for about 12 years.
12 years. Wow.
12 years, and there's a gentleman named Chris Porno. I always mention him because he's before me with something like this. He did The Lady Wrestler, and that was about Ethel Johnson, first African-American female wrestler. I always give him credit because he really broke ground for me, because at one point I was going to give up, because to tell you the truth, the film, when we first started, had a lot of great people and enthusiasm, and this is what happens in film. And then what happens is they get excited, but then one or two of them get jealous or they don't understand.
Or it's a lot harder work than they really thought, and a lot of waiting around. And
no, it's not even that. It's just they assume, they jump to conclusions. And I mean, I'll address this now. There's an individual that's trying to sabotage the film, who I took out of it. No big deal. She was a former world tag champion. And, she's said horrible things about me and this and that in the film itself. She almost got it blackballed, and she wasn't successful, because what we're trying to do is preserve women's history. Regardless, I kept shooting. And I've had many offers, including certain people from major wrestling companies. Not going to name names, but I'm pretty sure you guys know who I'm alluding to, that wanted this footage. And I won't sell it. And I'll never sell it because through this journey, I met other people that their stories need to be told, like Jazz. Jazz is now producing this. And when I say she's producing this, I'm not asking her for money at all. I'm asking her for her time because I want her story to be told right. You know, when she was in a certain company, she they just got rid of her for no reason. They should have embraced her more. When she was in other companies, she made everyone look good. And same with that, and same WWE when she was in it. I might as well just say it. She made everyone look good. She had great matches, and they just got rid of her, and that's what bothered me about that. So then I was still shooting this whole time, consecutive. I was still shooting, and I realized, well, you know, that means something too. So now it's evolved into something far more meaningful because I'm treating it like a thesis. Okay, a thesis. You got a thesis statement. You got a middle, and you got a conclusion. And now I'm involving individuals who are in the academic world to be in this. There's now several Olympians in the film. Um, we're taking it a lot more serious. Gary Wolf has become very key in this. I've noticed a lot of the men that are in the film, like well, we have Paul Warendorf's last interview alive.
It's
He
always better to interview them when they're alive.
Hmm.
what's that? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
better than having to say
Yeah,
it.
afterwards.
But yeah,
Yeah.
you and Evan have that in common, you know, where you saw Orndorff in his last days,
Well,
and
let me just briefly say something for people who go, "Wow, that's taking a long time to make." The Wrestler took 7 years. 350 Days took 6 years. You know, when you're churning out schlock like some people do, yeah,
Jurassic World domination.
whatever. I'm just saying. I'm just saying a quality documentary, a quality film, a quality drama
Yeah.
should take years to be done right.
And it's different layers to Evan, and it's you're because it's like you're trying to sculpt something, and like this piece of clay might work for a minute, and then you relook at it at a different angle, and you remove part of the piece of clay, and that's just basically you're constantly chiseling, you're constantly taking off, breaking in, cutting, splicing. How's this going to work? So now we realize it's not just women in wrestling we're going to talk about. We're going to include women in society. You know, there's a lot of good, phenomenal women that are now going to be in this. Claire Gaudiani was the first female president of Connecticut College, um, who was allowed to marry. They weren't allowed to marry after a certain, like until the 90s. Female
Wow.
female presidents weren't allowed to marry. And Claire Gaudiani was a staple in our local town, in a local society, in New London, and she was very strong. She would get the press were never nice to her, but she always helped, always smiled. As a matter of fact, when I was a kid, she would go to my church. And you know, look, I was maybe about 12 years old, and I was talking to her, and I remember she came back from Morocco, and the president of Morocco gave her a medallion. Actually, I have it if you want to see it.
Sure.
But
Yeah, go ahead and grab it if you want to.
yeah,
If you have
I'll
like a second.
get that. And I'll get something else here. Hold on. Uh, Give me 1 minute, guys. So she gave me this beautiful medallion, which the president of Morocco gave her. She also let me meet Hillary Clinton when I was a kid. She was always nice to me. And what's horrible is the media was just so mean to her. And so I think the real underlining reason why I'm doing this film is for all the women that have been always kind to me, because there's been so many. Like talked about me wrestling. I learned wrestling from Susan Tex Green. I didn't learn it from a man. I learned it from a woman who's tougher than nails.
I used to see her at the
And
Garden wrestling Moolah.
yeah, and
Well,
this
of course, Evan was close friends with Nicole Bass and Melissa Coates, and then I myself worked a lot with Bailey, and I was in the same class as Sarah Del Rey in APW when she was learning to be a valet. So,
she's great. She's a great worker. So this is the medallion that was given
oh
to me.
yeah, if you tilt it up just a little bit,
I got it good?
Yeah,
that's
beautiful,
wonderful.
beautiful.
That is beautiful. Wow,
And,
we can see the
and it was very
inscription.
kind of her. I mean, this is an honorary thing you would get, and for some reason she just always, because when I was a kid I had to deal with a lot of stuff with the school systems and stuff. I have actually had very severe learning disabilities. She actually went to bat at me. Her being the president of Connecticut College contacted Cutler Middle School and asked them, why are they not teaching me properly?
Wow.
Why are they not providing me with the proper services? And it kind of put a put a hair up their ass about it, and they started acting a lot more proficient. But then,
Responsibly.
yeah, but eventually I took myself out of there, and I was homeschooled for a year, and then I went into high school. So it just, the school systems when I was a kid, they were very archaic. Um, this thing I created, I was a blacksmith when I was a kid, and I learned how to do blacksmithing. So I made this
Yes.
out of a railroad spike. I'm the co-founder with Angel Orsini. We're the co-founders of the New England Music Hall of Fame. And with this women's wrestling documentary, we've just created the Women's Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Nice.
It's registered in Florida. So, and it's not the Women's Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, it's the Women's Wrestling Hall of Fame. And again, it's because certain organizations won't honor certain women, or they'll honor them later on when they're dead. And why wait till then? Why don't you just focus on that? Every year, a Hall of Fame, a wrestling Hall of Fame, will only honor maybe one, two women at the most. And, I understand their whole reasoning for it, but we'd also like to support NCAA, the Olympics, in regards to women, women's athletics. Um, so that being said, the documentary is not just about preserving the history, but it's about preserving their memories and making sure that their stories told the right way.
And tell the viewers who some of the legendary women are.
This is what we have. We have Jazz, of course. We have let me pull up the
Sue Green.
Susan Tex Green, Joyce Grable, Wendy Richter,
Angel
we have,
Orsini.
yeah, Angel Orsini. We have over 105 people in this. Just give me 2 seconds. I'll get you
So this
the
movie's going to be 8 hours, not 3 hours like Batman. Yeah.
no, it's definitely gonna be down to 90 minutes. I'm not gonna
Wow. Wow.
have, yeah. Well, we'll eventually also create it into a here we go. This is what we got. We got Mercedes Martinez, she's in it.
I've worked with her.
Deborah Ann Maselli, Medusa, she's in it. We have some footage of Joni Lawler. We have Nanuchka, who is in Glow. Hold on, give me 2 seconds. Jeez. Gail Kim, she's in it. Oh, Victoria, she a wonderful interview. She's in it. Paul Orendorff, Bob Orton, Kayla Farmer, which is Camille. She's the current NWA champion, women's champion. Let me see. Brian Blair's in it. Yep. God, there's a lot of people that are kind of in it quick. Oh God, we have some of Candy Divine. the horrible thing is, I was supposed to interview Candy Divine like face to face with a video. I was supposed to go down to her house, and then she passed away, which was horrible. But I do have an interview that I'm going to be posting on Pro Wrestling Post, of a verbal one we did, and I wrote it, so stay tuned. Sumi Sakai.
Oh, the
She's
great
awesome.
Sumi Sakai. She's one of my all-time favorites. I worked a couple shows with her in California, and I always said if Hello Kitty was a wrestler, it would be Sumi Sakai.
Nice, yeah, I love her. She's a nice lady, kind person. Little Guido, he's in it. A lot of men are in. Let me see, Ricky Morton. Oh, you know, it was a very interesting interview. Was Val Venus. Val Venus gave the nicest interview in regards to women wrestling. He has the utmost respect for it. Really great interview with Val Venus. I wasn't expecting it. I just it was out of nowhere. Emily Dole, she was Mount Fiji. Let's see what we got. Ross Hart, he's in it. Mildred Burke, there's archive footage of that. Steve Blantz from Glow. Les Thatcher, we have a really good interview with Les Thatcher and Danny Hodge. George Napolitano, the photographer Robin Smith, Rockin' Robin. Let me think here. Tiger Conway Jr., the Great Cheyenne, Mr. Spellmont, Tom Burke, I got Don Fargo's last footage alive.
Wow.
You know, God, it's just
Don Fargo's in our Wrestling Then and Now documentary that we did about 20 years ago.
oh really? Okay. I got him when he was at the Mobile Wrestling
Oh,
Review.
excuse me. Don Fargo's in 350 Days.
Yeah, he was in
Doc-
350
Yeah,
days.
Dr. Death, Don Arnold, the original Dr. Death, is in Wrestling Then and Now. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Let's see. Brian Reese. Well, Brian Reese was a well-known photographer down south. He passed away. Good guy. Oh, I got someone special that you. Okay, here we go. Desiree Peterson. Very rare interview. Desiree Peterson. She was um, the first inaugural WWF Women's Tag Team Champion, along with Velvet McIntyre. Originally, it was Velvet McIntyre and Princess Victoria. Princess Victoria was, I was informed, let go, and we had Desiree Peterson take her place. And Peterson was a very good interview. We weren't able to get Velvet. She's up there in Canada, but we have a lot of interesting people that are in this, and they just tell a really good story. And where I'm just looking forward to fine tuning the edits so it's both entertaining and informative to people. And you know, we would like to do a giant celebration, and we've been thinking about having a showing at the ECW arena, maybe even creating a special fund for women's wrestlers. There's a lot we're thinking about right now, and the producers involved are, um, Evan's associate producer, and obviously, we have Carlene, Jazz, Angel Orsini, Gary Wolf, Nikki Moshe, um, Susan Tex Green. She's one of them. Oh, and Cheryl Russo, she's in this too. I forgot. Ivana Sanchez. So we're all kind of involved in it somehow. We're looking at film festivals right now, but eventually, when it's done, I'll have enough to create a nice, maybe short mini series, as well as to complement it. But I want to see what the tone's going to be of the film first. That's the biggest thing. We have enough. We just need a little bit more just in case. And I really want more non-wrestlers in it as well, like people who are lawyers or women who are doctors, military, and just anything that's non-wrestling. Because I want there to be contrast. And me and Evan, we always talk about there needs to be contrast with documentaries in order for them to be good. So But that being said, that's what that's about. And, a lot of people are interested in that because, we're in a situation right now where um, women's wrestling is like the number one thing being watched right now on TV.
And also, I don't think there's been that truly great women's wrestling documentary. I don't think it exists. There's been a few attempts, but
yeah, in my opinion, I really liked Lady Wrestler that Chris Bernot did, and he's going to be in this too. I forgot to mention that because he really was able to capture it properly, and that's kind of what inspired me to kind of change how I'm going to do mine because he did it the right way. I think the best one right now, in opinion wise, I really think it's his. And you got to see it. Lady Wrestler was for me, it was very powerful one. I don't even think I can even capture that because they showed more how the struggle was. They were up against a bigger struggle than what I'm doing, because a lot of it, the history was trying to be erased. Yes, in my case, it was hard to find history itself, but like they didn't treat people of color very well back then, and therefore they didn't properly document things properly, and so he had a very big uphill battle with that. And honestly, if anything, watch his. 'Cause it's a really good film. It's actually one of my favorites.
So tell our viewers how they could keep in touch with you and the various projects, any social media, any,
Especially if they want to see when your movies come out, how they could watch them.
Well, we definitely want to go to the film festival circuit first, and then we have several offers with distribution right now, but it's premature well, it's premature anyway because I don't not properly pieced together yet. But I think the best way to reach me, I mean, isn't reaching me at all because I don't really have. Lollipop Gang will be. I think the best way of following is so the New England Music Hall of Fame is the official production company that's doing this, and we're doing it through the New England Music Hall of Fame because we're also including the whole soundtrack is all female. Sister Funk is doing the soundtrack along with Kat Kramer. That's Stanley Kramer's daughter. Phenomenal voice, great great ability there. Kay Bear. So yeah, www.nemhoff.com. That's the New England Music Hall of Fame. So that would probably be the best because that's where a majority of the updates are going to be. If people reach out to me on Facebook, yeah, I don't really have much to say in regards to when it's going to be out. It's definitely going to be another year. So we can eventually do an actual showing.
what about Lollipop Gang? When would that be out approximately?
Lollipop Gang's already finished. I'm just doing some pickup scenes and stuff. I might do a private showing of Lollipop Gang, a viewing of Lollipop Gang, and I might show part of Circle of Champions. It would be it would be open to the public to a certain extent, but it would definitely be a good time for anyone who would be interested to. I would love to hear people's feedback, and it would be utilized as a Q&A as well. But I might show all, if not like more than half of Lollipop Gang on that. And Lollipop Gang, just real quick, is a mockumentary about people who try to be things that they're not. And that's really what it is. I grew up in Rhode Island, and unfortunately, there's a lot of people who thought they were mobsters. So we're basically making fun of people who think that they're mafia people. And none of all these people are based on actual people I know. Like it says on the thing, the names have been changed to protect the ignorant. And it's again, it's based on people that like there was a person I knew actually I went out with. Her name was Shelly Nunchucks. Okay. And when I went out with and Angel plays Shelly Nunchucks, by the way. She plays my ex-girlfriend. It's not exactly what would happen, but I changed it a bit. So it's her name on this is Shelly Nunchucks Sargenti. Well, I posted that on IMDb, And within like a month, I got a cease and desist written in crayon by the real Shelly Nunchucks saying, "You cannot use my name. It's already copyrighted." So there. And it was like the state of Montana. So I called the state of Montana up, like you do in this situation. I said, I was the Secretary of State. Yeah, can I still use this name? And he's like, well, yeah, you just don't use it in Montana. And I'm like, all right, sounds good. But that's how spazzy this person that I knew was. And she would say, her name's Shelly Nunchucks, and
Well,
she's
at
a
least it makes you still paying attention to you.
good. I hope so, because that's free press. I love it. And she says she's Shelly Nunchucks, and she says she's a martial arts expert. So when I asked her what form, and she said, well, I didn't really do a form. I said, what rank were you? Well, I didn't really have a rank either. But you mentioned Jackie Chan. She was obsessed with Jackie Chan, and she would do. This is part of the reason why I broke up with her. Bizarre stalker videos like, Jackie Chan, if you're watching me, my number is.
Wow.
Right. And so but there is an innocence to that character that I enjoyed. And obviously, yeah, I did base it on her because I utilized that name. But in the film, it's Sally Nunchuck Sargenti. Angel plays, and Angel plays comedy, physical comedy so well. It's scary. That's the biggest, like, and for me to say that about someone in regards to their ability in comedy, it's a big compliment because I'm a huge critic in regards to comedy. 'Cause it's a very difficult thing to pursue.
I was going to say our viewers are still wondering what your other four directors were. You got to Mel Brooks, and then we got you sidetracked. So why don't you name out your other four, and then we can.
Absolutely, yeah. I absolutely like. Well, you got Mel Brooks, Alfred Hitchcock. Oh my God, Alfred Hitchcock. You watch some of his stuff; it is scary good because he doesn't have to say anything. That's the beauty of it. He doesn't, and it's the tone he uses. You can watch his stuff anytime. Alfred Hitchcock, Mel Brooks. I would have to say Stanley Kubrick. I anyone that was an extremist that was willing to change to change the makeup, to change the way. Orson Welles did that. He broke every rule. And he said, I'm not going to do this stupid thing where we're going to pretend we're staging it. We're going to make it real. So Orson Welles, very important because he said, fuck it, I'm going to do my own dang thing. Stanley Kubrick, Martin Scorsese, um, Alfred Hitchcock, Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks can take a serious subject matter, or an offensive subject matter and turn it funny. He took, I don't know if you guys watched The Producers, but he
Oh
took
yeah.
the Nazis
Yeah.
and came up with Springtime for Hitler. And
That's right.
he's a genius. Like
Yeah.
anyone else, it would have plummeted. Like, how do you do that? Like,
Yeah.
and you had Zero Mostel in that film. I mean, I know Mel always liked Gene Wilder, and I like Gene Wilder too, but he made Gene Wilder his Johnny Depp. Like Tim Burton, who I wouldn't necessarily put in that list. He would be the second list. I do like him. I like some of his films, but it's the same film. So it's like you always have like the weird la 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 in the background, and some sort of like a German
Danny
cinema.
Something from Danny Elfman.
Yeah, yeah. But those are my favorites. And I'm a huge Kubrick fan because he just didn't care. He did, and he was. It's not that he didn't care. He cared so much about that moment, that scene. He was so focused. He didn't care what anyone else thought what he was doing. He was focused to the goal to the end of that film. Full Metal Jacket. He would do 35 takes of R. Lee Emery screaming at the top of his lungs. You know, a jelly donut. Screaming at pile there, and he kept doing it just to kind of tweak them more to make them edgy, and you know people say, well, he was horrible on set because he would. No, he wasn't. He was trying to get the best performance ever. He got stuck with Shelley Duvall in The Shining, and Shelley. I'm not trying to knock Shelley in any way, but Shelley Duvall just really wasn't mentally prepared for that. She should have not taken that role because she then had like a complete nervous breakdown afterwards. She was like losing her hair and stuff. Whereas like Nicholson handled it like a champ because he was just like, so you want me to cut the door down? Sounds like a plan. He's already met there. Whereas Shelley's just like, I don't know what's going on, but why are you yelling at me? You can't do that on like that type of a film. You literally got to be bulletproof. And I dealt with someone today. They wanted to work on the film. I was like, I want to work on a film. And we're like, okay, cool. This is what you got to do. Boom, 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 boom. And they're like, you're being so hostile. I'm like, well, you got to be here at 6 a.m. You got to do it this way. We're going to do rehearsals here and whatever else. Well, that's just a lot, right? There's a lot involved. So for anyone that's watching out there, film is a skill. And I'm not saying I'm the greatest director ever. I'm not. I'm not Scorsese. I'm not any of those guys. But I have to problem solve like this. I have to fix something that's this big and make it this big, okay? And that's hard. That's the one thing you have to be a director. And again, I'm not saying I'm great. I'm not. I'm good enough to be able to do the things that I can do. And this is part of the reason why I want to switch my time more to documentaries. Now, after at the end of the year, but by the end of the year, next October, I'll be finished with 6 feature films, not just Lollipop Gang, not just Circle of Champions, but several others, including the Pitbulls documentary, which is going to be Gary Wolf's documentary. And I'm also working with Angel Orsini on, and Kathy Steele on a film called Wrestling with Anxiety, which Slick Wagner Brown has been very key in. He's going to be part of it as well, and so is his wrestling organization, Test of Strength Wrestling. So, these films, I've realized when I got all those awards for Silent Times and I got a write up in the Chicago Tribune, I don't want to do fantasy anymore. I want to help people and tell their stories, because you can inspire someone and tell someone's perspective in a different way visually and audio wise than you can just write it down. That's really the goal for this, because nowadays we're all depressed and we're all hurting inside, and we really need to heal, and people are suffering. I'm suffering from it. We're all suffering from it. But if we can relate that through film and understand, hey, you're not the only one. We all got this. Let's focus on something positive. Because when you get rid of those negative thoughts, which by the way I had for like all of last year, I literally thought I was a loser and all this other stuff, because I would get, and I'm being honest with you guys, I was getting death threats from certain people, that I already kind of mentioned and hinted, and they're probably watching, but and they're whatever. And the good thing about wrestling, but the bad thing about wrestling is this: you have a lot of people that are very bitter, okay, but you also have a lot of really good, kind people in wrestling. But the bitter,
it's a thing that we've brought up many times on the show, probably on a weekly basis.
well, the very, yeah. So it's like, and I have no issue with the individual that keeps trying to harass me and saying horrible things about me. I don't care, and I don't care if anyone else says bad things about me. I do wish them well, but I do also wish that they find peace, because it takes a lot of effort just to hate someone, right? And I don't hate anyone. I just see it as, when someone's moving ahead in life, be happy for them. Hey, we all have our things. We all do whatever. If you're doing something positive and you're enjoying yourself, which I'm trying to do, that's all I really want to do. I want to enjoy myself and enjoy people around me. And I just want to just do something positive with these documentaries. I don't want to, it's not my, there's a lot of documentaries out there that just exploit people, but I just don't want to do that, because I see these reporters and they just want to ask edgy questions and they want to fool the person they're talking to. Well, that doesn't do anything. Let the person who's speaking tell their story. It's like a ship. You're sailing a ship, and the interviewer is going to just steer it. The interviewee just helps provide the wind for it. That's it. That's just it, or the fuel for it. And that's what I try to do these films with, because the more I let them talk, you finally catch a fish. And you're like, wow, I didn't think they were going to bring that up. And
Well, we're
that's
catching the fish from you right now, right? We've turned the tables on you, and now you're giving us the gems that you try to get from everybody else when you're interviewing them. So the table's been turned.
yeah, it's a weird situation. I never know what to do with these things.
No, that's fine. You've given us a great hour. We really appreciate the time that you've been able to spend with us. I know it's a little bit late on the East Coast, so I don't want to keep you up too late, but really appreciate the time. And you were a great interview when we had you on earlier last year, and look forward to, continuing to help promote your films and other projects whenever you have new ones coming out.
Oh, not a problem. And the things that I'm kind of working on, it's one of the last 6 films. It's a very important one, but we're trying to bring back Benny Hill. And we have a very big name that's going to be involved with this. I'm not allowed to say yet, but they are fairly big. And my dear friend, who's a comedian, her name's Jamie. Actually, there's 2 people I want to mention. Jamie Hemmings from Slam, great journalist, can really tell a phenomenal story. And this other woman, her name is Jamie. She's actually a phenomenal stand-up comedian. Been through a lot. She happens to be transgender, and her name is Jamie Gendra, and she very. I'll speak. We've only been starting to write with each other recently. Sketch comedy, edgy sketch comedy. We were talking about this last night. Tracy Ullman. We're trying to bring back Tracy Ullman. Benny Hill. We're trying to bring back that. We're trying to bring back like Faulty Towers type of stuff. But comedy's being taken away from us. So, I even asked her, hey, is it okay if we go?
Yeah, ask Chris Rock about what it's like to try to stand up and keep your routine.
Yeah, exactly. It's a thing. Well, it's like, why do people get offended? We have to laugh at each other. We had to laugh at silly things. Like your friend over there says I look like some guy, a bald wrestler. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
A compliment. I think that guy
Joe
was a
Duke.
yeah, that's a compliment. He looks like a handsome fella.
Well, speaking of my friend, I'd like to bring him on for a few minutes. He's an old school wrestling fan.
Go ahead.
My friend is Daniel Everett, also living in Connecticut, and he's going to reminisce for a few minutes. Yeah, sit down, Danny.
How you guys
Special
doing?
extra guest star for everybody.
Uh-huh.
Welcome, Daniel.
So, Danny, tell him about some of your favorites back in the day.
Well, my very favorite is Dick the Bruiser. Bruiser and Crusher.
Oh man, he was great.
Yeah, especially after he teamed up with Bruno Sammartino when they won the championship. But I had a lot of guys. Ernie Ladd. I like the dirty guys, Ernie Ladd.
Who was Dusty Rhodes' tag team partner? Dick Murdoch?
Dirty Dick Murdoch.
Oh man.
Yeah, I like a lot of the technical guys too, like Victor Rivera, Tony Gurria. I like the drop kick specialist guys like Don Leo Jonathan.
Jumping Jim Brunzell, maybe.
Oh, Jimmy. Yeah.
Jumping Jim Brunzell.
Killer Bees.
Remember?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was an old school fan, but then I dropped out of it. After I really found out that it wasn't real, I have to believe it. For a long time it was. So I got back into it later on, but the new guys, the new guys, they good, but they can't compare to the old guys.
No, they don't, because they're not tough. That's the thing. Like back then, you had to be tough. You had to.
Oh yeah.
Piper was tough. Everyone's like,
oh, I love Piper.
How tough he was actually, because he could take care of himself.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was brought in the hardest way. Like they would just torment him, and then eventually they're like, "All right, well, you're okay in our eyes." And that's the thing, man. Like know, Brian Blair was a phenomenal shoot wrestler, and there's a story he talks about he defended a girl's honor. I think Osborne there, or what's his name, Matt Bourne. He was doing something, and he put him in a shoot, and it was just there was another thing that he did. Uh, he was going against Backlund, and he had a real good toe-to-toe thing with him, and Backlund was another good guy who was great. I mean, we need more guys like that. And Evan, you told me about that match, and I saw it later on. It was Valentine versus Backlund,
Valentine. Yeah.
and it was in Valentine won the belt for like a minute. Remember?
Yeah, that was at Madison Square Garden.
That was a great match.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And you know, like Vern Gagne versus who's that?
Him and Greg, they were good. I wasn't really crazy about Backlund. I'll be honest. I mean, his skills, yeah, he had the skills, but but he wasn't exciting to me, you know.
Yeah, he couldn't really cut a promo. I'm not trying to knock him, and I do like him, but he's like, well, you don't want to get him mad because he kick your ass. Like that's the thing.
But with the women now, you know, back then you didn't see a lot of the women, but Moolah, of course, was the top girl, but top lady. But I like Vicky Williams that she used to wrestle all the time. The pretty one, pretty girl.
That's a name that not many people mention. Vicky Williams is great.
And she wasn't just pretty, you know, she could wrestle. And I see today they use a lot of it's more of a sexist thing. It's all pretty women. It's you know, and I know it's to sell tickets and to get people to really watch it. I understand that, but then you know, you look at Moolah, you know, she wasn't beautiful, but she could wrestle, you know, and you got to respect that, you know, you got to really.
There's a whole controversy behind the reason why they were using Moolah, and it's kind of mentioned in my documentary. I'm not going to mention it though, but like, let's just say she had an in.
Yes. Well, hey guys, we're about out of time this week. I really appreciate all the folks that could be here this week for us. Oh, and before you go, just tell me, what's the belt that you have behind you, Christopher?
You know, it's weird. That's the Susan Tech Screen United States Championship. We had a show 2014. I did a world record. I pulled a 3,000-pound SUV. Then we had a match afterwards to help a local firefighter. We donated all the proceeds to him, and that was one of the titles that we had. And it was a prototype. We wanted to use it more, and you know, the economy wasn't that good afterwards, so we couldn't really do as many matches. But that was the first inaugural Susan Tech Screen United States Championship.
Very cool.
Let me just briefly say, speaking of charities, Daniel's brother, Wayne Everett, he just lost his eye and his job and is about to lose his housing. We're going to be doing a GoFundMe, so if anybody is kind enough to help, we'll be announcing that shortly.
Give me the link and I'll post it on.
Yeah, it's not set up quite yet, but in the very near future, we're going to set it up.
Sorry to hear that for him.
We'd appreciate everybody's support. And thank you so much, Chris. And
thanks, Chris.
As always, we just want to say that the comments, the opinions of anyone else on the show is not necessarily shared by the staff, Russell and yours truly and Dr. Mike Lano, but we do like to give everybody a forum for expressing themselves. And that'll pretty much do it for tonight. Anything else, guys?
No, if you need any help with that, Cherry, let me know. I'll put it on New England Music Hall of Fame, too.
Oh,
so.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Christopher. You've been a great guest, and we look forward to having you back on again.
Thanks,
in the near
Chris.
future.
Looking forward to all your films.
Very nice of you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Good night.
Hey, he's from Waterbury.
Oh, sorry, cut him off there. So did you have anything else you wanted to talk about? We'll just say we'll have Mike Lano on next week. He's having family issues, as we've covered before on the show. So we'll make sure that hopefully he'll be able to join us next week. And if you have any other, we have another guest coming up next week, don't we?
Yes, we have a noted Asian filmmaker, and Dr. Mike Lano will be bringing on guest as well. But we have anime film director Yan Tang, and her film is
great.
The Bright Side. So
Awesome.
all the way from China. Next week, May 8th, Mike Pappas, old school WWF fans will remember Mike Pappas. There's a documentary on him. And May 15th, Jenny Santana, daughter of Tito Santana. She's
That's going to be great. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, we have some eclectic guests, not just wrestling, from the arts. And we appreciate everybody listening and sharing and spreading the word. And we're not just wrestling, as you could see from tonight's show. Most wrestling shows are not discussing Stanley Kubrick. So,
No, I have a story about him actually. When I was a kid, I actually met Stanley Kubrick.
Wow.
He came over to to my friend's house because my friend's father was it still is the head vice president of Dolby Laboratory. He invented Sensurround, and he was in the hot tub. Everyone was doing cocaine and joints like they did in the 70s out in Marin County. And there were two guys that were listening to everything that Stanley Kubrick had to say. They were following him around like lapdogs. One was a guy who just finished a little film called TX-1138.
Wow.
That was George Lucas.
Yeah,
Nobody knew who he was because he hadn't made Star Wars yet. So he was just a schmo that wanted to find out what Kubrick had to say. The other was his friend Steven Spielberg. I swear to God, they were hanging out in Tiburon with at Yoan Allen's house in the 70s, partying and talking about 2001 and this upcoming little film project Lucas was working on called Star Wars.
Okay, awesome.
This is in 1975. Back in the day when it was all just in theory, and there wasn't such a thing as Skywalker Ranch. But now, the rest is history since then. And I didn't get any residuals from it.
Wow.
But I was one of the first 100 people to see Star Wars while they were actually sound editing the film in Dolby Labs.
Awesome.
My other claim to fame. So anyway, do you have anything else to announce, or we'll bid adieu for the show for tonight?
Well, we can wrap up the show. I just want to talk to you for like 1 minute after the show.
No problem. All right. Well, everyone, we'll see everyone next week, and Lena will be joining us. See you then. Good night.
Good night.
And